Okay, so in this video, we're going to be talking about the Sony PlayStation 5 DualSense Edge controller. This is Sony's first official premium pro level competitive controller. So far, I've really been loving it. We're going to be talking about this, functionality of it, the pros, the cons, and so much more. Before we do all that, if you enjoy the content I put out, make sure you like the video, sub to the channel if you haven't already, and ding the notification bell. That way you can stay up to date on all the content that I put out on this channel. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this. Alright, so the PlayStation 5 DualSense Edge. I actually really like this controller. So I want to answer one of the questions that a lot of people are probably going to have, or a couple questions that people are going to have about the DualSense Edge. And that is, can you overclock this controller? Anything you can do to the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller, you can do to this. So I hope that answers your question. Next question. Does this work with the official PlayStation charging dock, or the controller charging dock, or any of the third-party ones? Yes, same functionality, configuration set up on the bottom. So literally just pick it up, place it on it, immediately starts charging like that, or however the charger is set to charge. So there's really no difference, I guess, overall when it comes to form and functionality for this controller. It's really not at all different than the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller. I mean, maybe a couple of different areas. Like I said, it's heavier, you got the function buttons, and you also have the hair trigger stops as well as the paddles on the back. But other than that, it's the same form factor as a DualSense controller. So literally any accessory that works with the DualSense will work with the DualSense Edge. Anything as far as like modifications or modding or circuitry and all that that's on the DualSense is here on the DualSense Edge, with a couple of other components, basically just to house and take care of all the modularity of the controller. But yes, as far as using it with PC, finds it registers as a DualSense controller. And as far as the profile swapping when you're using it on PC, that is not really going to work with this. That's going to be baked into the PlayStation OS and using this on the PlayStation 5. So if you're wanting profile swapping PC, yeah, you're not going to get it. Battery life with this, 3.5, 4 hours in comparison to the DualSense. But yeah, hopefully that answers those questions. Also, yeah, you have gyro. I know a lot of people are probably going to ask it. Yeah, everything that's in the DualSense is in the DualSense Edge. For me, it's a toss-up between, do I want to use this or do I want to use the Victrix Pro BFG? Now, first things first, let's talk about the differences, well, not between these. We're going to get to this in a minute. Let's talk about the differences between the DualSense Edge and the DualSense. Now, I love the DualSense controller. I love the feel of it. I love the haptic feedback. I love the tension and just the way the analog sticks feel. To me, they feel good. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I prefer the Xbox layout, I prefer the PlayStation layout, because honestly, I can go either way when it comes to utilizing the layouts on the controllers. Like they personally just work for me. I don't have that difficulty. So when it comes to this, I absolutely love how it feels. One thing I really dislike about this is the battery life. Battery life on the DualSense is not the greatest. Honestly, every time I use my PlayStation, after a couple hours, I need to top it up because it's already down to like 1 bar. This one, roughly 3 hours, and a lot of people are saying 4 to 5. I'm getting roughly 3, maybe 3.5, 4 hours in comparison to what I get with the DualSense controller, which, in heavy usages, I'm like, man, I actually miss the DualSense for its battery life. And I never thought I'd ever say that because it's really weird. But yeah, the DualSense, way better battery life than the DualSense Edge. And I know that's been a point of contention. A lot of people have really disliked that. The fact that they're like, yo, you're paying more and you're getting less battery. Well, you also had to factor in, you've got the modularity of it. You've got basically an onboard memory, which allows you to work with multiple profiles. It's also baked into the OS of the PlayStation 5. But you have that onboard memory to be able to switch back and forth between different profiles based on the type of game you're playing. So you've got that, like I said, modularity. You've got the hair triggers, trigger stops. You've also got the paddles and customization with that. The only thing that you really can't customize really is the D-pad, and let's be honest, PlayStation D-pad's pretty good. But beyond that, there's a lot of custom feel that's within this. And so, yeah, you're going to sacrifice for more functionality. You're going to sacrifice more battery. So that's something, if it bothers you, it is what it is, right? Admittedly, in comparison to the Pro BFG, even the Razer Wolverine V2, yeah, they both have better battery life. The Victrix Pro BFG is going to be taking it. But beyond the battery life, like I said, all the functionality with it is one of the bigger benefits, or the biggest benefit that you're going to be getting with using the DualSense Edge. Complete modularity in the sense of the analog sticks, although the competitor, the Victrix Pro BFG, also has replaceable thumbsticks, but more so in the sense of the problem with that is because it's an entire module, like the D-pads and the left analog stick go together, as well as the right analog stick and face buttons. It's all one module, so if one part goes bad in that one, then you're kind of screwed. Whereas with this, if something goes wrong with either the sticks, the analog sticks, then you can pretty much swap it out with a replacement, and they just plug and play. There's no additional need to do soldering or anything like that. Literally, it's plug and play. And that right there gives us the edge of the Pro BFG, and then the non-modularity of the Razer Wolverine V2 kind of knocks that down a peg. And that's the most expensive one out of all three. A lot of people are concerned about stick drift. And this right here, that ability. And then, too, if Sony can make sure that they can keep the stock of the analog sticks in, then 20 or 30 bucks a pop for an analog stick, just to, a replacement module just to pop out and pop in, that's really good. That's cheaper than buying a whole controller and having to wait 3 to 4 weeks for it to be shipped to you. So that's something that this has over the competition. Another thing is being the function buttons and being able to hop between different profiles. So if you want to have certain recurves, dead zones, intensity of the triggers, or whatever customization that you personally have that typically you would have to go into a game, go into its options and settings, and configure all that. The fact that you can do that directly with profiles, you can set them up, and it's baked into the OS for the PlayStation 5, so you can just go back and forth, like that. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're actually going to start setting up the function buttons on the DualSense controller, or DualSense Edge. So basically what we're going to do, we're going to hold down the function button, which is going to pop up this wheel right here. And right now it's only have the default profile selected. I haven't created any additional ones, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and customize and create some. Now there's a couple ways you can get to this beyond just holding down the function button. You can also go to it. This is more the long way, but if you go to settings and then you go over to accessories, and then you can go down to DualSense Edge and be able to select it from there, as well as just about everything else. So we're going to go to custom profiles. While we're here, so we only have the one, which is, like I said, the default profile, and then you can also go over to unassigned, but we haven't created one. So we're going to create a profile, and I'm going to call this Call of Duty. Okay. And while we're in this, we have the options to customize button assignments, stick sensitivity, dead zone, trigger dead zone, vibration intensity, and trigger effect intensity. So these are set to strong, but you can also go up to medium, weak, and off. I'm just going to leave them by default as to what they are. What we're going to do, first off, we're going to look at the stick sensitivity / Deadzone for this profile. So we're going to start off with the left stick, but you can also go back and forth between left and right. And right now it's on default sensitivity curve. And this is you being able to see that level of sensitivity, right? As you can see, this is where it's at. If we go to the right stick, same thing. And you can see what I'm doing. Right? Alright, so if we want to adjust this, go to Deadzone, move it however over you want. You can do all the way up to 30%. You can do 15% or however you want, right? It's really up to you. And you can do this, like I said, with either stick. So you can change not only the sensitivity curve, you can leave it at default, you can get quick, you can go to precise, you can go to steady, digital, dynamic. I'm going to go quick. I'm going to leave the curve adjustments as they are for both. And then when I want to go back to the game, just hold function and then press options. And I can assign it to either function circle, function X, or function square. I'm going to do function circle. Alright, so I'm back in the game. And what we're going to do here is we're going to test it out so that we can see how it works overall.
Target dismissed.
So, good. Also got the hair trigger on.
Reloading. They tagged me. Changing mags.
Got enemies around.
So I showed you guys how to set the profiles, and just for a quick reminder, basically all you do is hold down the function button, which is on the, underneath the analog sticks of your controller. So hold down that, and then you press the options button, and you can go over here. Like we already showed you how to create and set the stick sensitivity. The other thing I want to show you is trigger dead zones. So right now I have the trigger stops off, right? So we get full depression. You can see how it feels, or you're seeing what it looks like. And then if I put half trigger stops on both by selecting them with the selector on the back, and that's how much of a quicker depression that is, as you can see. Now if I pull it all the way down to hair trigger, it's like instantaneous. So you got a bit of an understanding of how that functions. So L2, no trigger stop. R2 right now, hair trigger. This is pretty much how I use it for like shooters. So hair trigger, you can see right there how quick that depression is, and you see the gradual of L2 with no trigger stop. And then if we do half trigger, then you see how that is as well. So half trigger on the right trigger, or R2, no trigger stops on L2. Alright. So we go over to customization of buttons. So I currently have the short little paddles on, And I'm going to customize these. Particularly, I'm going to have my right one be my, be circle. So it's going to be my prone. And the left one, let's see, because you can customize these to just about anything. So left one, I think I'm going to have that be my reload. And then this is going to be part of the Call of Duty setting profile. All right, so that's done, right? And what I'm going to do at this point, since you can see how I got everything mapped out, I can go back. But here's the other thing I want to show you guys too. You can rename it if you want. You can copy it over. Let's see, let's call this one 2. Assign that to that. And let me make some additional changes to this. Alright. So we're going to do 6 zone sensitivity. We're going to take the left one, dynamic, and the right stick, we'll do quick. As you can see, these are the dead zones for them. Alright. So those are the customizations. Alright, we're going to go back to the game. And then we're going to play, just do a quick play. So as far as profiles, we're going to use Call of Duty Profile, Copy 2. I should have just named it, but yeah, you can quickly switch between profiles. Like I said, you can go default. However, we're going to try not dying for once. Alright, so the standard profile or default profile doesn't, it doesn't have any type of special inputs or anything like that. It just feels like whatever your default settings that you've configured your controller to, stick sensitivity, stick sensitivity and everything else. My preferred one, which is how I have it, I've got the recurve and everything like that. The way I personally prefer it, then, for me,
You're halfway to mission complete. Keep fighting. Our UAV is
at the
orbiting
very
the
least,
area.
it feels, snug. I guess that's the best way I could put it. The right paddle I have is my squat or prone. Left paddle I have as the reload, and this is in Call of Duty
Cluster
Profile
mine active. Friendly airstrike
primary.
on the way.
Now, if I switch it to Call of Duty Copy 2, my right analog stick is set to quick. So then, the speed at which my acceleration hits way higher than what it would be on stock. So if you're into more twitchy gameplay, this is what you're going to want to have. Then even though I just died right there, my left paddle is set to jump. Right paddle is set to prone. That way my thumbs are free to die. They're free to stay as they are. So I don't have to take my fingers off of them at all. So one of the reasons I find that being able to switch your profiles on the fly, not only just for shooters, but racing games as well, is that saves you time with not having to go into each individual game and be like, oh damn, I need to set my sensitivity for this, from left stick, my customized buttons that I have for my inputs and stuff like that. Face buttons and triggers. The way this is, you just literally hold the function button, boom, go to your default. If you want to use default controls, or if you want to go to your custom profiles, however you want to do. And it's like that.
1 minute remaining.
And if you play online games, that's moment of hesitation, just like right there, you die. So it's, you know, this is something no other controller is offering you to be able to do on the fly, and it's baked into the OS. That gives this
We have the lead.
a very noticeable improvement
30
and
seconds
well,
remain.
lead
Friendly
and
action.
advantage over anything you're going to get from, you know, Razer, PDP,
Station.
and the like. And think about it. When you're playing a game and say you need a certain setting, but you don't want to take that precious second, because that time that you're going to take to go into settings, change your stick sensitivity, your button layout, and all that, by the time you're doing that, if you're in game, you're dead. It's a life or death in game type of situation, wasting that precious time, which for a lot of us, we typically will either wait for the beginning while it's queuing up for a match, if you're playing a shooter or, you know, whatever game you're playing, or if you are, you know, finished with a match. Now, if you play fighting games, because the DualSense is great for fighting games, if you play fighting games, then the one thing is when you're playing them and you're on, you know, doing versus online, most games don't let you remap buttons unless you're able to go into a setting within, like, you know, the versus screen. Certain games, like some Street Fighters, allow that, but most games like KOF and such don't typically allow it. So if you can easily just hold down function and press one of the face buttons and be able to go and, you know, create your custom layout, whatever you want your buttons to function as, and then within seconds you can just switch between them. To me, that's freaking awesome that you're able to do that. Now, other thing too, going back to the analog sticks, being able to switch out what type of stick modules that you want to use. If you want a dome top that's, you know, shorter or taller, or if you want concave, you can also do that, or convex, you know, whatever layout you want for your stick, being able to just pop them on and off is great. You can also do that with the Victrix Pro BFG. It also has the functionality of doing that, but, you know, I just feel like it goes on a lot easier and comes off a lot easier as well on the DualSense Edge. Alright, so when it comes to the controller, like the way I like to have my stick layout, small analog stick on my left and a high dome top on the right, just because for me, it personally just feels better. And as far as paddles go, I typically like the longer paddles, but I feel like with the way these, you know, these smaller paddles are, they feel so, like, let me take this off and disconnect it. It feels so right. Like, I don't feel like I'm losing my grip by having to, like, make sure that I'm not accidentally pressing, because it's one of the disadvantages of having paddles, like, you know, that spread out, is because, at least for me, I tend to accidentally hit them sometimes, and that time can be something that's truly crucial, and I don't want to screw that up. So being able to have them be smaller, but also still being able to grip the analog stick, it's just, for me, it works. This is exactly how I want my controller to feel when I'm playing. Alright, so talking about paddles, I know I kind of briefly touched on that a little bit earlier, but you get 4 different paddles, or 2 for each side. You get a full paddle, and you get this little disc-like paddle that you can use. Now, this, for some people, it might feel like it's a little bit of an awkward angle, because you're going to be using this completely different than you would standard paddles, but when you put your hand on the controller, it just kind of naturally rests on that area, so you don't really have to worry about it too much. It feels good. I will say, when I utilize paddles, long form paddles, not these right here, but the other paddles, I typically feel like I need to be more conscientious of them, because I might accidentally, you know, actuate them by pressing on them when I don't mean to, and that can be the matter of, like, life and death within the game, or, you know, a waste of a resource. Just, this feels the most natural in comparison to other paddles. A lot of people like paddles. I mean, you look at the Pro BFG, you have paddles set up for the way this controller is laid out, and they actuate pretty fine. But yeah, I don't know. I just personally like how this feels overall. All right, next thing I want to talk about when it comes to the DualSense Edge that we need to talk about is the build quality. So the build quality of the DualSense Edge is incredibly high quality. Now just think about the DualSense controller and how premium that feels, and then add on like $200 because you're going to be paying that much of a difference. Add on like a $200 feel, and then you get an idea. This is a weighty controller. It is heavy, but it feels very premium. It looks premium, but it's also, I want to say, a very casual looking controller too, because it doesn't look all crazy like most pro controllers do, or super gaming. This just looks like a luxury high class controller. So yeah, it's it's when you compare it to like the Wolverine V2, or you compare it to the Victrix Pro BFG, like this feels like a toy. I mean, it feels good. I'm not gonna knock it, but you feel like you're holding plastic. This one, you feel like you're holding quality. Like it's such great quality craftsmanship of this and how this feels. I know I'm gushing over it, and no, I'm not paid by Sony to say any of this, because I got sent this from Sony, but I also got sent this from PDP Victrix. So I'm just how I feel. Like this feels like I'm driving a Ferrari, and this feels like a Toyota Camry. Like there's a huge difference in quality. But yeah, this just feels good. It's weighty, and I absolutely love how this feels. Now, the question that you guys are probably going to want to know is the most important, and this is what we're going to end this video on, is this answer to this question. The Pro BFG, even though I don't have it, the Wolverine V2, and this, the DualSense Edge. Which pro controller would I recommend for you? Either you're playing on a professional level, or you just want a higher quality stick, or you're competitive in online shooters. Which one should you go with? This is me fence sitting, but I'm going to say it depends upon you and your play preference. Now, for what all you get as far as full customization, I kind of got to give it to Victrix Pro BFG, because it can double from being great for platformers, or triple great for platformers, action puzzle games and all that. Great for fighting games, because you can set this up like a Saturn controller, the 6-button layout, and custom D-pads. You got 3 different D-pads, or you can set it to being for shooters. That's a lot of customization options, at least to me, right? So this one's really high up there. But then you've also got the DualSense Edge, and the premiumness of it, quick ability to swap back and forth between profiles, and never have to leave, any part of your game. You can just stay in your game, switch to a different profile. Everything's different, however you configure it. So there's that. And then the Wolverine, because it's got the micro switches and macro switches and such like that. And it's a great controller too. Like I said, I don't personally have it, but I do have previous incarnations of Wolverine controllers, and they're great. But man, that's really up to you. Personally, this has the worst battery life. This has the best battery life. But I can use them wired. So like the wireless part doesn't matter to me, but it might matter to you, that battery life. 3.5 to 4 hours, 8 to 16 hours. And these are both off of single charges, right? 0 input latency on both. I believe the Razer as well, but and also this other thing, connectivity. So 2.4 wireless gigahertz or direct line in, Bluetooth native to the PlayStation platform, wired connection as well, Wolverine, you know, it really comes up to you. But for me, these two. That's my choice. I like to have options of choice. I will go back and forth between two, but I'm probably going to be leaning towards using this one more, especially when I'm playing Call of Duty or Battlefield. For everything else, and occasionally some shooters, this is going to be what I'm going to go with. But all that being said, what do you guys think of the DualSense Edge controller? What are your uses for it? What is your opinion? Do you like the functionality of it, or do you think it's overpriced? Or are there competitors that you prefer, or are you bothered by like the lack of Hall effect sensors? Whatever your thoughts are, let's go ahead and get the conversation going in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like it, sub to the channel, ding the notification bell, all that stuff YouTube wants you to do, as well as make sure you follow me on social media. All of those are going to flash on the screen too. Before we leave this video, huge mahalo and thank you to Sony for providing the review unit for the DualSense Edge controller. Completely floored at that opportunity. Very grateful. But again, full disclosure, yeah, they sent it to me, but they don't control my opinion. You guys see this video before they do, and all the opinions in it are my own. Can't nobody tell me what to say in anything that I'm doing. But all that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Let me know what you think down below. And yeah, see you on the next one. Peace.